All right. We got Adrian coming in here from Seminole 863. Adrian, can you hear me, man?
Yes, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Finally, some expert analysis here. These people have had minutes. This is what we're looking for. Now we get cranked up with the real stuff. So, Adrian, I've got a list of notes here. We're going to get those in a second. But, man, I want your opening comments just about what caught your eye, what meant something to you this afternoon.
I thought it was good to see Milton throw the ball. I thought Milton looked pretty good on a lot of those throws. I think Jordan Travis has improved a lot since last year, too, from what I saw. But, again, it's the spring. We're not taking too much from the spring. So, got to, there's not much to take from 2 quarters of like real football, to be honest with you. They only played for 2. They did some stuff there at the end that I don't think anybody really paid too much attention to. Yeah. What I wanted to see, I saw. I thought the starting O-line did its job, and that we're actually down our best offensive lineman, who will be back for the fall. So I think that was something to really look forward to. And I thought the quarterbacks looked good. I thought the freshman receiver looked very good. It probably looked like he was the best receiver on the field, to be honest with you. And Malik McClain, I thought all the running backs looked fairly good too. So, and defensively, I think we looked solid. I think defensively we looked solid. Jermaine Johnson was wreaking havoc until he looked like he tweaked the knee or something there, and they took him out, which was a smart thing to do. Then he didn't play anymore for the rest of that. But at the time he was on the field, he definitely was all but unblockable. So that's another thing to look forward to. What'd you see?
Well, the first thing that you hit on was Mackenzie Milton. So he made about 3 passes that were like top shelf, top level passes.
Absolutely.
No question about that. He had the back shoulder touchdown throw to the left pylon. That was just, the timing was perfect. Threw it exactly where he needed to throw it. The one in the seam, was that... the
one where he threw it over the 2 defenders?
Threw it over the 2 defenders.
Who was that to? That's a good question. I don't remember who that was to either, but it was a really good throw.
He had one early to Malik McClain, because I wrote down McClain, because obviously McClain had some other plays that, and I think that was Brian Robinson. He had a nice throw to him. No, that was the one down the right. So he went down the middle. He went to the left. He went to the right. The right throw, the defender had decent coverage, really good coverage, and he hung it up for Brian Robinson to pull in. That was a well-thrown ball. He had 3 balls on that drive that were exactly where they needed to be. That was nice to see, because I've been hearing, and again, let's not blow things out of proportion. You hear a lot of things that comes out of spring ball that he's been a little bit rusty.
But I think that's to be expected. He hasn't played football in 2 years.
Sure.
I don't know why people made such a big deal out of it. Just me personally. I mean, you expect them to be rusty. You see that they're really trying hard to develop Rodemaker. But Rodemaker's got a long way to go. And it's fairly obvious there. But they're giving him a ton of snaps, so it made sense when I was hearing in the spring practice leading up to this game that Rodemaker was getting a lot of snaps. Well, I mean, I think you kind of see why he was getting a lot of snaps, because he needs a lot of work.
Yeah. And Mike Norvell, there were several shots of him after some series pulling Tate aside.
He's coaching him hard.
Yeah, working him hard. Yeah, coaching him hard, coaching him up. If you want some more Florida State football coverage that's top notch, head on over to Seminole 863. Seminole 863. Is that pretty much the best way to search that on YouTube? Probably. I know that I just found it. Type it in, Seminole 863.
Yeah, just type in 863 Seminole TV.
There you go.
Or you can type in. You probably could type in just Polk and find me too. Polk.
Got Adrian Polk on the line. There we go. 863 Seminole.
What other notes did you take though? because I'm interested to hear what someone on the outside saw. Because I can be,
Oh,
I got garnet and gold tinted glasses, so I could be a little bit.
sure. Well, see, the question I got for you is you're throwing a question at me. I'm going to throw it right back at you, just with the offensive line being what it is. So, like, for example, last week, I'm watching Clemson and they're loaded everywhere. They're not having any issues for the most part, but the offensive line hasn't been quite what they want it to be compared to all the other units on both sides of the ball. So I'm wanting to know, how do they have those offensive line distributed between the two teams? But in this situation, it's just offense and defense. So I think a lot of the sacks, that this is the one thing that drives me crazy about this spring situation, is got to protect the quarterback. I don't want the quarterbacks to get hit, but man, if they could come up with a better way to judge a sack, because guys are getting sacks, and I think 80 or 90% of them aren't sacks. They wouldn't have been sacks. They're guys that are getting blocked, that are just reaching arms out and getting jerseys. And so that's kind of tough to tell in terms of how much the offensive line is protecting the quarterbacks. But the quarterbacks had time to throw for the most part. I know Jordan Travis tends to maybe flush to the right a little bit. That's kind of his bailout. Maybe a little bit too often, too early.
I think if we're talking Jordan Travis and just let's start with the O-line. I thought the O-line looked, again, I think when you add in that guy that we're missing, who's our best offensive lineman, I really think you have a solid unit there. I thought they played very solid for the most part. They couldn't block Jermaine Johnson, and I don't know how many teams have a guy like Jermaine Johnson, if I'm being honest with you. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing to say, oh, they couldn't block Jermaine Johnson. I mean, how many teams have Jermaine Johnson in the AC? Let's just go ACC.
Yeah.
I don't know that a lot of teams have a guy like that, so they couldn't block him. But I felt like when he finally went out the game, he got some consistency on offense and was able to do some things. But for the most part, you should definitely be satisfied about where the offensive line looked right now. That backup, now that second string O-line did not look great, but we knew that. I don't think to sum it up, I don't think anything happened in this spring game that we didn't kind of know already.
Yeah. And unfortunately for you guys, even though there's not a whole lot of Jermaine Johnsons in the ACC, if they're there, you're going to see them most likely.
That's fair.
You've got the toughest schedule in the conference by far. You've got the toughest in-conference schedule, and you got the toughest non-conference schedule. So I don't know if we get a great read on, if Florida State finishes the season 7-5, let's say, just throwing out a record, and NC State finishes the season, or any of those mid-tier teams in the Atlantic Division, Louisville or BC, finish at 7-5. Those are two different deals right there, trying to get to 7 wins against what Florida State's going to see in the tougher of the two divisions, the two toughest opponents in the other division, North Carolina and Miami, and by far the two toughest opponents in the non-conference that anybody's going to see in the ACC. As a tandem, of course, Clemson's got Georgia, but as a tandem, Florida and Notre Dame, it's not even close. It's the toughest schedule in the conference.
Yeah, that's why I think that first half is really pivotal. I still think you're catching Notre Dame at the best time you could probably catch them. And then we have North Carolina, which to me is the toughest game. I think North Carolina to me might be the toughest game outside of Clemson. If I'm just being honest on the entire schedule, I just think and some people don't even feel that way, but I feel like that's an away game. They should be motivated to kind of revenge what they saw last year, or what happened to them last year. Florida, I got to wait and see what that team looks like. But obviously that's a rivalry game. Same thing with Miami. That's a rivalry game. And then we know what Clemson is.
Folks, we got Adrian on the line. You can catch him at Seminole 863 Seminole, whichever way you want to slice it. If you type it in, I'm going to screw that up every time, Adrian. So just forgive me for that, whether the 863 comes in front of the Seminole. But I know whichever way I typed it in, both ways, I found it right at the top of the screen. So you should be in good shape. Once again, Adrian, set me straight.
863 Seminole TV.
863 Seminole. I'm going to
Kind of
remember
rhymes
it
that
now.
way.
863 Seminole. There you go. Type that into the search bar and follow him back and get subscribed over there, because we found Adrian a few weeks ago and enjoyed the conversation with him. And he does a great job covering FSU. Kevin Knowles made some plays early in the ball game.
He looked good. He looked good on that second unit. Kevin Knowles looked the true freshman looked very good out there. Again, it was the second unit. The freshmen, for the most part, look solid. Mainly talking about that wide receiver room. Those were the freshmen that really impressed. And I think those are the freshmen that are going to have a chance to play the most snaps. But Kevin Knowles did look good. I like how he plays. He plays hard, plays fast. Kevin Knowles looked good. Let me think. What are some other names out there? Knowles stood out to me. McLean. Toafili had a few good runs. Treshaun Ward is really surprising me. He pretty much came out of nowhere. Treshaun Ward is I'm shocked about how we heard it all practice that he was good and making strides. I was shocked to see it. I was shocked to see how good he actually played. He makes guys miss. He does not go down easy. He falls forward, and he was a walk-on. So I was surprised by that.
How do you expect the running back distribution to play out, or how would you like it to play out in regards to who gets the playing time and the distribution of carries?
That's a great question. Before seeing Ward, if you would have asked, I probably would have said Corbin, probably going to be your lead guy, and Toafili and DJ would kind of mix and fight for that second spot. I think you have 4 legit running backs on this roster that I'm not sure FSU would miss a beat with whoever they decided to put out there. I still think Toafili has the biggest upside of the group. But I think they're very confident in whoever they put out there. I think they showed that.
So Adrian, you're walking into a lot of enemy territory here. Not from me, of course. We just cover all of college football, but here in the chat, it's probably a little bit different than your chat over on 863 Seminole in terms of having all sorts of fan bases represented here, including the Gators and the Canes in particular. So you guys get your shot to leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, your trash talk, whatever you want to leave there in the live chat, and we will answer it and pass it along to Adrian here. Again, 863 Seminole. Head on over there for Florida State football coverage. Just a few days ago, of course, the big news was that Randy Shannon was brought on to the defensive staff as analyst. Your thoughts about that?
Solid hire. I don't think he's there to do any. I think he's there to be what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know if mentor is the right word. I don't know if Adam Fuller needs a mentor, but he's definitely there to be a great advisor to Adam Fuller. And first and foremost, I really think he's there to open up those relationships in South Florida. Randy Shannon is a guy who's coached everywhere in Florida. He's coached at Florida. He's coached at Miami, obviously. UCF. He's been all around the state. And if there was one big criticism for Mike Norvell and that staff, especially last year, doesn't seem to be hurting him this year so far, but it was the relationships on the recruiting trail. I think Randy Shannon, gets that, allows them to get a foot in the door in some of those areas that maybe Norvell and company don't quite have ties with yet.
Wayne the Cane makes a comment here to say, voice, Norvell looks like a frustrated coach today. To be fair, I only saw 2 quarters. I don't want to I hate to be the guy to interpret what people look like when their facial expressions are assertive. I am not that guy that plays psychoanalyst to say, oh, they're frustrated, they're confident, they're nervous, they're afraid, they're this. I think all these coaches, they would love to have so much more time with their teams. And they think, man, I got 15 or 16 reps in the spring. I got to make everything count, every play count. And they're just urgent. They just want to improve and take every snap and make it count.
I mean, does Nick Saban ever look happy? Does Bill Belichick ever look happy? What about Greg Popovich? Like, I'm not saying Norvell is those caliber of coaches. I'm just saying, are coaches ever really happy? Like, how is he supposed to look?
Absolutely. And again,
I wasn't a fan of it, but
I don't read into that. Don't read into that. Based on what you got out of not just today's game, but everything over the entirety of the last few weeks, and I guess they've got one more walkthrough tomorrow. Is there any part of this football team that you feel a little bit differently about, whether good or bad, positive or negative, than you did a few weeks ago?
Off of this game?
Off of this game or the entire spring session, all the news, everything that came out?
I'm pretty status quo. Like, I feel the same way I felt before. This game really didn't do much to change anything for me. They're improving in the places I thought they would improve. Some of the places that people may be down on, I got to remember they're missing certain players at certain positions still. I keep talking about this because it's a big thing that nobody or people will just gloss over, but their best offensive lineman did not play. So when we couldn't block Jermaine Johnson, well, normally that guy would be blocking Jermaine Johnson. So I got to keep reiterating that some of our best players didn't play. They were kept out for on purpose. Obviously, you'd rather save these guys for the fall instead of wasting them or getting them hurt in a spring game. So for me, I didn't see anything that's going to make me jump off a cliff or put all my money on, a 10-game win season, so to speak. So we're still a work in progress. I know that for a fact.
No doubt about that. We're talking Florida State football after the spring game. NC State hit the field as well earlier today. As the teams across the nation here for the next 3 weeks, we're going to see a ton of spring games, and Florida State trying to make amends off a 3-6 in Mike Norvell's first season. And unlike Miami and Florida, able to host some recruits. So that's always a big deal to try to get them in the door, show them a good time, show them what you're all about, continue to build those relationships. Did you see a list of who was able to show up to this game?
Oh, I saw the list. I don't think you want me to read it. There's like 70 or 80 of these kids, but we got one. We already got one commit before the spring game started from Rodney Hill, a Georgia athlete / running back.
That was just today?
That was today. That was before the game started. So they got one commit. They got one commit, a Georgia running back / athlete, Rodney Hill. And a lot of people think could be a few more guys that pulled the trigger today.
Good stuff. Enjoy seeing all sorts of people here in the live chat. We got about 100 on the line talking Florida State football. If you got anything for Adrian or myself, I'm scanning the chat, so leave it right there. Hey, Cheryl, our number one moderator. Good to see you. I'll ask this, Adrian, if somebody heads on over to 863 Seminole, what have you released recently? What do you have over there right now?
Recently, what have I done? Well, I do my weekly show where we go over anything Florida State related for the week. I also do a Friday show with me and a couple buddies. One guy's a Miami fan, so we kind of go back and forth on that one. And just today, I was live streaming during the actual spring game. But that's about it. That's about it as of recently. Oh, and I did do a video on Travis Hunter and Miami's James Williams and how those two guys are very, very elite level talents.
All right. Ricardo wants me to run down my top 10 in the NFL draft. We're going to talk a lot of NFL draft here, Ricardo, in the next couple of weeks. We got Rick Saratella from the NFL Draft Bible coming on here soon. Do you get a lot of Miami traffic over there?
Oh, absolutely. Most of these guys I see on my own channel.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
So they don't bother me, or when they come over to my channel, they know the deal. They come with different energy. Or they get checked real quick.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. I don't see anything in the live chat in particular. Yeah, who else came on through the transfer portal? You got Jamie Robinson as well, correct?
Jamie got a lot of play today, number 10.
Yeah.
Playing in the slot. One of their guys, Keir Thomas, he was sat out on purpose. Obviously, Mackenzie Milton. Parchment isn't on campus yet. That's another guy we're adding to the wide receiver room. Let me think of who else. Obviously, DJ Williams came over from the portal. Brandon Moore came over from the portal, defensive back at UCF. And we had another defensive back. His name forgets me right now, at Arkansas, that came over.
Oh, yeah. Well, if I could get my keyboard to work, I don't know why it's not connecting. All right.
So overall, I think we just, we had a different spring game than I think most teams are going to have. For whatever reason, we only did the 2-quarter thing, and then we went into some gimmicky stuff, which is fine. I think that was for entertainment purposes and whatever the case going on there.
Sure.
But again, I said it before the spring game. I can't take too much out of it, and so I'm not going to change my tune now just because I may have seen some things that I like. At the end of the day, it's still the spring game, so the fall is where it's going to matter. It was good to see him get a spring in, though. I'll tell you that. It was good to see him. I definitely think they are going to capitalize off of that.
So what kind of odds do you place on the quarterback battle?
Well, I think Jordan Travis improved, but I'll be honest. It's just the throws that Milton can make that I don't think Travis can make. And if Milton's able to get the playbook down, and he was playing with that knee brace today, but he actually had a pretty decent run today. Granted, it's spring. Nobody's really trying to go out there and tackle him. So you don't take that from what you will. But I just think if Milton's 100% or close to 100% and knows the playbook, I have a hard time seeing how Travis can beat him out. I just don't know if Travis has the arm level talent to. I just don't think Travis can make the throws that Milton can make. That's really where it is with me.
Absolutely. I would be right there with you. TFJ Boxing, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. Appreciate that so much. TFJ Boxing. Has Mike Norvell done anything since the end of last season to make you think any differently about him and his ability to lead this whole thing?
I think his recruiting has surprised me. I always kind of felt Norvell was a solid coach. I never thought he was a great coach per se. And I definitely wasn't a fan of a lot of the recruiting things that happened last year. However, the early recruiting, granted, it's April, so we'll take time and see how that finishes. But I do think his recruiting so far this year has actually impressed me. I mean, to have 80 or so prospects at that stadium, I think that's impressive. Obviously, you're not going to get most of those kids, but you're going to get a solid amount, I would think. I already got one. We'll see who else. I expect maybe 1 or 2 more guys to commit. So his recruiting has impressed me.
Well,
Coaching,
the commitment.
I don't have a problem with his coaching per se.
Well, yeah, that commitment list off a 3-6 season, an ugly 3-6 season. Not that there is such a thing as a pretty 3-6, but we'll see between now and December how many of those hold. But
I'm with you.
To pull in the athletes that they have thus far, and that's why this season, I don't know what they need to do on the field to hold those commitments.
Well, they need to show that, for one, you got to play. Last year, we didn't even look competent at times, most of the time. You for one, look like a real football team this year. You look like a real football team. You win 6-7 games. I think you keep a majority of these kids that you already have committed. So that's where I'm at with it, Mark.
Somebody needs to fix Google. I've typed in Florida State 2022 commits like 3 times, and the top thing on the page is Texas 2022 commits. I have no idea how that works. I'm trying to find the 247 list. That's usually does the trick right there. That's all I need. Why does it come up Texas? That's crazy. Never seen that before. Anyway, we'll get I want to get a read on Rodney Hill. There we go. I'll just type him in because I couldn't remember his name.
He recently decommitted from Virginia. I think he decommitted from Virginia this past week.
All right. So he's an athlete out of Statesboro, Georgia, Bullock Academy, 45th rated athlete in the country, 247 Sports Composite, 46 rated player out of Georgia, top 500 player in the nation. And 247 Sports likes him a little bit better than the composite, 6 feet 186. Yeah, Virginia got the commit early.
Yep.
And a few other schools in the mix, 25 offers. Athlete. So that tells us either wide receiver or defensive back, most likely. One or the other.
They're listing him at running back, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I believe that's the plan at running back. So started off the day with a solid commitment, and we'll see how they finish it off.
Absolutely. Talking Florida State football, head on over to 863 Seminole. You got Adrian Polk over there breaking down the Seminoles, and so check out his work. He's joined us a couple times now. And we certainly enjoy the conversation.
Absolutely. But unless you have anything else for me, I'm going to head out here.
Absolutely. If you were on the line the whole time for this spring game, you take some time off here. Take some time off. Adrian, we appreciate you stopping by. Thanks for answering some questions and giving us your insight.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for having me on. And go Noles.